Welcome, welcome to our first day of Bonico Bingo. Like I said before, we're just super excited. Hi, Kathleen, to be here. It's so fun, and we've been working so hard, and we're just so thrilled to finally get this going. So thank you all for supporting us, and thanks to all you guys. We sold out. I think we have one coastal left, which is just awesome. So hi, Lauren. Thanks for joining us. So, yes, I know, Liz. Yeah, we're super excited. All right, so first, before we get started, we just want to acknowledge that Bonnie and I are so lucky to live in the beautiful town of Fairfield, Connecticut, which is the ancestral land of the Umpqua,s, the Sasquas, the Maximuks, the Pequannock, and the Pequot people. So we also want to give a huge shout out to Jessica Long of Jessica Long Embroidery, because she's the one who invented this whole embroidery bingo last year, and we just thought it was such a fun idea. And I'm a big bingo fan. I actually run the pizza bingo event at my kids' elementary school, so the more bingo the better. And I know that some of you guys are doing both, Jessica's and ours, which is awesome, and we hope you win hers too, so good luck. All right, so if you've taken our classes before or used our kits, you're going to know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway for anyone who's new to Bonico. We just want to share a little bit about how we teach. And our guiding principle is that your embroidery practice, actually your fiber arts practice, but specifically your embroidery practice is yours and yours alone. And we're going to show you how we do things, but we don't expect you to do them that way. In fact, we don't want you to do them that way if it doesn't work for you. We love for people to play around and see what works for them. And if you do things one way and you've been embroidering your whole life, we are not asking you to change. We're just going to share what we know and how we do things, and then you can take what sticks and leave what doesn't. And then, so there's like a big thing about knots. Like some people don't use knots. We usually use knots. So you'll see us tying knots. If you don't want to use knots, don't use knots. We just don't care. But I did want to acknowledge that, because there is kind of there's two different schools of thought with knots. And what we're making is handmade. It's not meant to be perfect, and everyone's is going to look really different, both because you have some leeway built in and flexibility built in, just in the design, but also because we just all stitch differently. I mean, Bonnie and I are business partners, and we stitch really differently from each other, and that's great. It's wonderful. I mean, we're all different people, and we all have different approaches to things, and we're all getting out of it different stuff. So however you stitch is just perfect. All right, so from now on, the basic format of the videos, because we don't want to, waste your time, is we're going to pull a stitch from this jar that my daughter made and announce it. And then we will give some specific design tips that are just specific to our design. So not necessarily specific to the stitch, but just how you might incorporate that stitch into our bingo board. And then we'll demo the stitch for anyone who doesn't know it, or who just wants a refresher, or just wants to hang out with us on live. And then if you're watching live, you can stitch along with us when we stitch on our bingo card, or you can just shut it off and stitch later when you are, when you're ready to stitch. You don't have to stitch with us right now, but you can if you want. And I'm going to be stitching on a bingo board that we had to print on my printer, because you guys bought all of our bingo cards, so thank you. We really appreciate all the support. It's been super fun. Okay, so today we're going to start with the running stitch. The reason we're starting with the running stitch is because we didn't want to pull a stitch and have it be something super complicated for those of you who might be fairly new to embroidery, or maybe completely new to embroidery. So today is the only day where we're just not going to pull something out of the cup. So we're just going to do the running stitch today. And it's a nice basic stitch. A lot of other stitches are based on it. So that's what we're doing today. All right, so I'm going to switch this to my first person setup. Hold on. Okay. Hopefully I won't get out of the frame. Okay. So my my running stitch is in the top left corner here. So if yours is in a box that has mostly just the grid in the background, then you could use the grid lines if you wanted to, do your running stitches in straight lines, but you don't have to. You could do them in a curve. If your box has some curves in it, then you could follow the curve. You could, it's up to you. You can just do it however you want. You could also you could whip it or thread it. So if you know about the whipped running stitch or the threaded running stitch, you could do that too. So there we go. So I'm gonna, like I said, if you know how to do the running stitch and you just want to get started and you don't want to listen to me, then you can leave and just get yourself started there. But for anyone who is new or just wants to watch, I'll demo it on here. So this is a super cute pin cushion that we made in one of our kids classes that we teach in after-school programs. So I'm going to demo with 6 strands, just so it's easier to see. But then when I actually stitch it on my board, I'm going to use 3. So anyway, I've got my my needle threaded and my knot tied, and Bonnie and I are going to be we're going to be doing all of our demos on this one piece of fabric, and it's kind of long, so I've just folded it up here and held it together with some pins, so that'll be fun to see that when it's all done. And I'm demoing on my absolute favorite hoop, which is a 5-inch Morgan hoop, and it's got like a nice little channel, I guess you would call it, on the inside of the hoop that keeps the fabric from slipping. I really like that. And we also know that some of you might be stitching using a hoop stand, and if you are, that is awesome. Bonnie and I both like holding a hoop because then we can turn it if we need. But I know a hoop stand is a really great solution for anyone who hands might get tired, or if they're just stitching for a really long time, it's nice to be able to put it in a hoop stand. So anyway, all right, so I'm going to come up from the back. And one thing that I didn't do is draw a line. I'm not like a really precise stitcher, so I normally would draw a line. I didn't today. I'm going to challenge myself. So anyway, I like to trace my needle along the back so I can figure out where I want to go. I'm going to come up right here. And I am using, with my 6 strands, I'm using, if you bought our full kit, then you will have this needle. This is the larger one. It's a Boheen brand, size 22 chenille needle. We really like this needle because the eye is, yes, Bonnie says whoever wins bingo first will get a 5-inch Morgan hoop too. That's right. It's in our curated kit. We really like these Boheen 22s. They're really great also for using pearl cotton. Bonnie and I use a lot of pearl cotton in our kits. It's really great for beginners. It doesn't tangle very much. And this size 22 Boheen is really great for the pearl cotton size 5 or even size 8. So anyway, here I go. The traditional running stitch, the stitch lengths are exactly the same length as the gap in between. So since my stitch length is about that long, I'm going to come up about there. Yeah, see, I'm already not even in a straight line. It's okay though. And then come back down here. Oh, I'm breaking my own rule here, you guys. I always hold my hoop like this so that my hardware is out of the way. Okay, so then come up again, and then down. Now this is what Bonnie and I like to call this the poke and pull method. So if you're using a hoop stand, you probably do it this way. I really prefer the sewing method where you stay on top of the fabric. I can show you that too. Okay, so for the sewing method, you're going to come up and then go back down. But then instead of pulling your needle all the way through, you're going to kind of use your finger on the back to push it up a little bit and then have the needle come up like that. So then it's in and out. If you're doing super precise work, then the running stitches, you might want to consider doing the poke and pull method. Like if you're doing something that needs to be really precise. But I really like this way the best. So there we go. And there's the running stitch demo. There we go. And then since I like to use knots, I'm going to go back to this stitch, so anchor it, and then make a loop, and then go through that loop 2 times. I'm sorry if the words were in the way and you guys couldn't see. And then if you pull straight up towards the ceiling, then the knot will slide all the way down. There we go. Oh, I forgot to get my scissors. Hold on, let me get my scissors. Okay. These are some Lori Holt stork scissors. We really love these. These are also in our curated kit, which is what the first bingo person will get. So there's my quick little running stitch. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to switch to the smaller needle, which is, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. John James size 4. Bonnie, you'll have to remind me. Bonnie's our detailed person. All right, so here I am with my bingo board. And I think I'm gonna, oh, you know what I didn't do that I should do? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna show you how to run and how to whip and thread these. Okay, so if you want to whip your running stitch, you're going to come up and come up at the very end of your line. Oh, size 3, Bonnie says. Oh yes, they're bigger. They're a slightly bigger hole because they're size 3. So the smaller the needle, the bigger the hole. Same with pearl cotton. The smaller the number, the bigger the hole. In pearl cotton too, the smaller the number, the thicker the thread. Okay? So this is whipping. I'm coming through each stitch from the same direction every time, like that. And then you just go down at the end. And then if you want to thread it, what you do is instead of coming in the same direction every time, you go back and forth. So, oh, and if you're going under, it's a good idea to use the back of your needle. You could switch and use a tapestry needle that has a dull point, but you can also just switch it around and put your eye through. Okay, so I've gone through from this side, so now I'm going to go through this side. Then I go through here, and then through there. And then if you want to double thread it, you can go back in to secure it. And then come back up. And then go through here. So now you're kind of going in like the opposite direction that you were before. And then if you don't pull it too tight, you can see this like pretty little line that it leaves. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right, so back to this. So I'm just going to follow the grid lines. I tend not to get too fancy with my stitches, so Bonnie and I are sharing this. I don't know what your plans are, Bonnie, if you're gonna get fancy or not, but I tend to not be too fancy. So I'm just gonna do a running stitch along this center one. And I see there's a little bit of purple at the bottom. And I'm gonna have, I don't know if I'm gonna switch or just keep it green. So let's see. I think I'll I'm going to use the halfway point as my guide. So halfway between the, like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can see it on yours. There's like these things, the grid. I'm going to use the halfway point as my second one. Ish. I'm an ish kind of stitcher. Is anyone else an ish kind of stitcher? All right, so just keep going. If you find that your threads, when you're working with stranded floss, if you find that they're like not laying down nicely, you don't really like, they're kind of like not staying smooth, you can use thread conditioner, which is like sometimes it's just beeswax, and you can kind of run a little bit over the threads before you get going. I'm not going to use any today, but it's an option. Liz says, often, but not always. Yeah, you know, I'm the same way. If I want to be a more precise stitcher, I put on some magnifying glasses, and that really makes a big difference. So now I'm going to come back up the other side. And now I'm going to kind of do it offset. So this one I did here, and so now I'm going to start at the midpoint there. And so I'm going to have a stitch where this gap is on that side. So I can't wait to see pictures of what you guys are doing. Check your email because there's a link to, if you have a Google account, if you have a Gmail account, there's a link to our shared Google album. And so you can post pictures of your work in progress there. It would be awesome to see that. And if you don't have a Google account, you can still view it. I think you should be able to. It said you could. And if you just send us your picture, then we can upload it for you. And then you can see everybody's progress. And if you don't want to share pictures of yours, that's totally fine too. You can also share them on Instagram. Yep, Bonnie says she's used chapstick. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Okay, there we go. And then, oh, look at me. Getting caught on the hardware again. But I'm going to be okay with that, because whatever, it's just embroidery. Okay, now I'm going to come over here, and for this one, after I stitch it, I'm gonna whip that one. So again, I'm gonna do the offset. Usually when we do our lives, Bonnie and I are together. All right, so now I've come to the purple. It's a little bit of a bigger chunk of purple, so I think I might actually just go into it a little bit so I can finish that stitch length the same way. And I think I'll come back with the purple and do a little bit of some running stitch in there with the purple. But for now, then I guess I'll come back up. And then I'm going to whip this. So I'm going to go in the same direction every time. We're going to do the back stitch at some point, and the whipped back stitch is a really nice line, makes a really nice line quality for lettering. And so the whipped running stitch is a good choice too. But I like that back stitch a lot. There we go. And then I head back in. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do a double thread on this one. I don't know about you guys, but I have pretty much had the Encanto song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, in my head for like, I don't know, since that movie came out. Does anyone else have that song on repeat in their head? Anyone? Anyone feel the same? I don't know if it's torture, because it is a great song, but yes, Liz says same. It's really catchy. It's super catchy. It's too catchy. And now you do. Yes. You're welcome. My niece and nephew slept over this weekend and they watched the video. 7-foot frame, rats along his back. Yep. I think my favorite line from that whole song, I don't know why, but is at the very end when they say, Isabella, your boyfriend's here. I don't know why. It cracks me up. What if you say Baby Shark? Nah, won't work. The Bruno song is too strong. Okay, so I'm going to tie off on that, and I'm going to just add a little purple. So I wasn't actually planning on adding purple today. Kathleen, no. Yeah. I wasn't planning on adding purple, but I changed my mind. So it's actually great. I can show you how we've got our threads all ready here. So you can keep them in the skeins, or you can put them on, they have like these little thread bobbins, paper bobbins. Oh yeah, that pressure song is good. Drip, drip, drip. Yeah, I love that song. But we really like to use these clothespins. You can wind it on, and then you can kind of squeeze it and then use that to keep the end. So I'm going to get some thread. I'm not going to need much. And then I'm going to go continue to use 3. I really like this design because you can just, this bingo card, you can really, there's so much room for you know, creativity and flexibility and whatever works for you. Bonnie's probably laughing right now because I'm normally like really good at threading. Like weirdly good at threading, but not tonight. There we go. Is there a reason not to leave a thread in this game? No, I don't think so. Towards the end, when there's not that much in there, it can get kind of wonky and weird and start falling out. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I tend to leave them in the skeins. But I also really like this. This is my favorite way to keep them. But I'm also like a little bit lazy, so I just leave it in there. So, but whatever, like I said, your embroidery practice is yours, and yours alone, so you just do it however you want. Yes, Bonnie says make sure you pull it from the correct side. So always pull from the side, well, if you're using DMC brand, I don't know about other brands, I've never actually used other brands, but if you, when you pull, you want to make sure you pull from the side that has the barcode and not from the, it's going to be the larger size of the, larger size. So I'm really not adding much here, but it's fun to add a little color. Okay, so that's actually something that that is good to tell you about what I just did. When I came through, I caught the knot on the back. Sort of one like drawback to using knots is when I came through, I caught the knot, but luckily I was able to get out of it. So I made my one little tiny running stitch, and I'm going to hop over here and do just one more. Oh, wait a second. I wanted to alternate that. I'm going to take that out. You're going to take it out. You can just flip it over and then using the eye of the needle, pull it out. That's what I love about embroidery, right? It's, you know, it's like when you knit, you have to take out so much. And then with this, just do that. So I'm actually going to start down here in my Colonial French knots box. Okay. Oh, I did it again. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, there we go. So let me see. I don't know what I want to do with that. I think I might just leave them. They're cute. Maybe I'll put a couple more in there. But for now, I'm just going to leave them. And that's something that we really want you guys to keep in mind, is that just because you have now, you know, done some stitches in your running stitches box doesn't mean you can't go back and add more, you know. And especially as you, you know, as you go along and as other stitches start showing up on your board, you might realize like, oh, you know, this one, I did a lot of stitches in this box and now this adjacent box doesn't really have that many stitches in it. So you can go back and add more. And then when you're all done, you know, if you still have room on there, you can go back and add even more. So that's, we really put a lot of thought into this design and tried to build as much flexibility as possible. Yes, and no counting required in embroidery, right? Knitting is too much math. I agree. So anyway, oh, another thing that I didn't do, but I should mention, is that when you do the threading, you can use like a different color. So you could use a contrast color here, which would be pretty cool. So like I could have done, I don't know, purple, or maybe the yellow would have looked nice in there. But you know, it just depends on how you want to do it. I see that this is there. I'm going to pull that down later. Oh, if you are left-handed, I know we have some lefties. If you are left-handed, you can, I mean, this stitch can be worked from the right to the left or the left to the right. It's whatever is most comfortable for you. If you are doing the sewing method, right-handed people generally find it more comfortable to work from right to left and lefties from left to right. But, you know, like we always say, and we're going to hear us say a billion times again and again and again, is you just practice and, you know, experiment and see what works best for you. So, okay.